Hello, everybody. I'm Trina Gunzel, and I want to welcome you to the Legacy and Legends podcast. I'm so excited to have my dear friend Paige with us today, who is a retreat specialist. You're going to learn so much from her. She's incredible. She has an amazing heart. I absolutely love her. And I feel like I've got to meet you in person, Paige, even though we haven't actually met in person yet, which is incredible. I don't know how
I
that's
didn't
possible.
even realize that. That's so strange.
It is. So you are being a featured guest as part of Women in History Month, and I'm so excited to be able to spread the word about you. You're doing such incredible things, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into the interview. Okay, Paige?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, Paige. So if people were going to think, we know you're as a retreat expert, right? And where are you based in?
Utah.
You're based in
Yeah.
Utah. Okay. And you have some pretty cool retreats right there, don't you? I know.
Yeah, in the next couple months, there's like four different retreats in the next 2 or 3 months. So typically it's about 50-50 out of state or international and here. But yeah, well, actually last month I was in Mexico 2 times for a retreat. So I do a lot of different international retreats, but yeah, it's a lot in Utah as well.
That's amazing. I can't wait. Okay, so people could have an opportunity to jump into one of your retreats, especially after they get to know you better, which we will during this interview. Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So I always love to warm up with people kind of getting to know you on a personal level. So, what is one of your favorite movies?
Oh my goodness. Um, I think, that's a hard one. I grew up with no TV. So I am like, we grew up with Annie and Gone with the Wind and
I love it.
Sound of Music,
Yeah.
and so we had about 3 movies that we'd watch as kids. I really just am not a huge movie buff, but I did watch The Scarlet Pimpernel lately,
Oh,
recently, and it was so good. Like I was blown away by just it had all the stuff. It had the romance, it had the humor, it had the action. I mean, I just thought it was a good movie. So if you haven't
that's
seen it.
awesome. Oh, I'm gonna write that down. If I have seen it, it's been a while. I think the most recent one we just watched was Free Guy, and that's really cute. If you want like a cute kind of
Okay.
family movie, I always struggle with like what's a good one I can watch with my kids. The
I
Chosen,
know.
my favorite, the Chosen series, I absolutely love. But if you haven't
Okay.
seen that yet, you have to put that on your list.
Okay. I'm writing them down.
All right. And what about I know you have an amazing appetite and the food you make is incredible. People can learn more about you through this. What is your favorite food?
Oh, good question. Oh, you know what? I make the most amazing pizza that I go to restaurants. I'm like, it's not as good as mine. But it takes like 2 days to make the crust, and then you
Wow.
you make these caramelized red onions in balsamic sauce, and then you put blue cheese, and then you put arugula on it with olive oil and vinegar after you cook it, and it's like a sandwich of salad and the most amazing dough. I mean, it's just the best. So
That's
if you never come over
incredible.
and have my pizza, Trina, I want you to come over. I'll make it for you.
I will. And I'm Italian, you know that. So for me,
Oh
I love
yeah,
pizza. Yeah, I'm full-blooded Sicilian Italian. So I
right.
love pizza and I can't wait. I'm going to come to
Yeah,
one of your retreats.
good.
And you,
Yeah.
but speaking of food, did you say you make the food at your retreats or you'll do that for
Yeah.
people if they want to host a
So
retreat?
yeah, I often do. I mean, if they want to, they have a caterer that they want,
Mhm.
but I often make all the food, and it's just kind of, I think that the food makes about 20% of the experience.
I
Like
agree.
I've kind of watched enough events and I'm like, you know what, the food, it's such a huge part, and people just talk about it all the time, and the feeling that they have as they sit down and they get filled, and they just the taste, and that it's made with love and it's healthy. Like so many people just love that part of the retreat. So I think it's a big part. And so sometimes if people want me to, I can. And if they want to have some sort of catering or do other things, but we kind of work together and just figure out what the attendees want for their food choices. But it's
That's
fun.
beautiful. It is. It's such a big connection piece because I love hosting retreats too. And to do the food, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have hired Paige because I love to make it and have it ready, but that would have been something off my plate. So I am excited to recommend you for that. It's cool, Paige.
Yeah, fun.
Let's see what else. How about what is a book that's impacted your life? People always want to know from leaders, like, what are you reading? What's something that you're like,
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard choice. I have like 50. I am a huge book fanatic. The ones that, oh man, oh, like Love is Letting Go of Fear. One of
mm,
the ones, The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. She's so good. I'm looking at my bookcase right now because it's which ones I'm reading. Attachment Theory right now. I'm reading, health ones, the pH Miracle and those kind of ones right now. But I always actually have, this is kind of my way of doing it. It probably has to do with my personality, but I read about 4 or 5 books at a time.
mhm.
And I like it because I get to like make all the connections. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's talking about that in that book. And so my brain loves connection.
Yeah,
And when I read a bunch of books at the same time, I kind of get to do that. So
that's
yeah,
beautiful. I
my
love
50s.
that too.
That's
Yeah, thank you
awesome.
for sharing that. My book, I'm like reading that I know you mentioned on our page when it was like the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
I love that book so much. It's like when I meet someone who's read that, we have like instant
Yeah.
connection because you're like,
Yeah.
okay,
That's like my Bible. So
yeah,
as a
yeah.
coach, that's like my foundation. Every
Mhm.
single time I'm like, okay, let's begin with end in mind. Okay,
Yeah.
let's put first things first. Okay, what do you want? And
Mhm.
my whole structure of my coaching is around that book. I mean, it's like my Bible. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
it's
Oh,
awesome.
that's awesome, Paige. Thank you. Well, let's see. And what inspired you to do what you're doing now?
You know what? The retreat part, I've been throwing parties since I was probably 10. Like
I
my
love
parents were really great about just being like, invite your friends over, we'll have a banana split party. Or like my mom always threw birthday parties for us. And my parents were always like wanting just our house was the place that all our friends would come
yeah,
and kind of we'd have parties a lot. My parents hosted a lot of parties. So it was really a thing. And then when I was a stay-at-home mom, it was just my outlet. Like I
yeah.
would throw the most extravagant birthday parties for my kids. It
I
was
love it.
ridiculous. Like I'd sew the tutus and I'd make the
Oh,
horses and I'd
cute.
make the fondant cakes and I would make treasure hunts where they'd run over all over the whole entire neighborhood and we'd make the piñatas every time. So like these kind of
Yeah.
things were just, I mean, it's just part of my motherhood. It's part of who I am. And every single Sunday we'd have dinner parties. So I'm just not daunted by like, we'd invite the whole class when they
Yeah.
started going to school. I mean, it's just like the amount of people or the event. I have like Canadian Thanksgivings where I have 60 people come and we all just set up tables all over my entire
I
property and
love
house.
it.
Like it's just, I don't know. That's how I got into it. It's what I love to do. And then it was
I
like,
see it. You light
some people
up.
don't like doing this. I love it.
I see that. And that's cool because a lot of people are intimidated by that. I think that's part of our connection too. I grew up with a very similar background. Like everybody knew they loved coming to my house because we always had food. There was always
Yeah.
some event. It was usually outside on our property, and just so fun. That is definitely one of your zone of genius. Like your soul lights up. I can see it when you
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, it totally does. And once I entered it into this, like the coaching space, I kind of just saw that that was a need,
Yeah, it really
because
is.
everyone wants to do a retreat, but it seems
Mhm.
overwhelming. And it's really like often like a pro hack
Yep.
is so many people are like, I want to do it. And I've wanted to do this a long time. Find the space and set the date. Like
Hmm.
honestly, do those two things and everything else will come together.
Yep.
You'll run into people and you'll say, yeah, I'm doing a retreat and it's at this place at this time. And then that it starts to grow and then you get ideas and you have people to collaborate with and you find someone like me or whatever. But that's my tip is just choose the place and time and then things will come together for you.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my gosh, so fun. Yeah, that's exactly. You're like, we're just going to put it out. And I think there's going to be an even bigger need for that because people have been so isolated for years now and they're really missing connection. And especially if you do even smaller retreats where people are excited to come and have real connection. I'm hoping, more people will just learn about and get to know you because I know for me, I've wanted to come, even though I host retreats, just to come out to spend time with you and be in your space. So you said May, you're going to have more coming up this year, right? And you do them every year?
Yeah, so I have one March 18th to the 20th, and then I have one in May, no, May 18th to 20th. My
Okay.
May one is 18th to the 22nd. My March one is 18th to the 20th. So strange, the dates are exactly the same, but are the same. But yeah, yeah, it's just, the thing with retreats is, and parties too, is often people have a certain idea of how it should be. It should have,
Yeah.
we should have 20 people, or if I do an event, I want to have 100 people, or if I want
Right.
to, they have a certain, and really a retreat can be 5, 7 women just coming
Right.
together and collaborating and creating, and it can be 150 people,
Sure.
right? So it just depends on what your vision is, but it doesn't have to. I think people get kind of stuck and set on how it needs to look. And a lot
Hmm.
of times a consultation will just help them get clarity on, oh,
Yeah.
the feeling I want is this. And so that's how it'll look,
Oh,
and we can
yeah.
kind of come around to that. So
That's awesome. And you do those, right? Clarity consultations. So if they want to get
yeah,
on a call with you,
yeah, absolutely.
very cool. Okay. That's awesome. So what kind of obstacles have you had to overcome to live your dream life?
Ah, that's a good question. Oh, fear.
Mm.
I think that's the biggest thing that stops us. Um, I love the idea of choosing love over fear and asking yourself every time you're like in a conundrum, is just asking like, okay, is this love or fear? And then choosing love, even though it may be scary to even choose love, And I think we typically, I lived in fear just for so many years of fear of my life falling apart, of not being enough, like all of that. And when basically one of the concepts that I've learned is what we fear the most will always happen.
Yeah, sure.
And so like it's like this self-proclaiming prophecy of just it's gonna happen. So either let go of the fear so it doesn't happen, or be ready and learn the lessons when it does. And um so anyway, I just have learned that even if our worst case scenario happens, we can still stay in love, and then usually our fears are just liars. They're not
Hmm.
actually true. Like even when my worst fears happened, they weren't as bad as my imagination had made them. So
Right.
I could have just faced them years before,
Right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
so yeah, a fear is probably the simplest answer, but it's mindset. Like it just always comes
Mhm.
back to mindset, and
Yeah.
it's like peeling an onion, and we
Yeah.
just keep peeling the onion and finding new things that need to be revealed for us to step up into a more
Hmm.
abundant life.
Yeah.
I keep getting the invitation to do that, even though I'm like, what? I did the work. Like, why am I here? It's like, oh yeah, there's chaos before new order. I get to step up,
That's right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And it is. It's that every single level, it's like there's a certain level getting up to six figures, and then there's way different stuff that happens from six to figures to millions. It's like you think, oh, I've learned all this stuff and I have bookshelves full, but it's like you have to consistently continue to evolve, and it becomes the little things, right? Like, okay, this is one more area I can put in a little more discipline to get even better results. Because as you go and impact more people, it's like that leveling up in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, like for instance, I recently got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I've had so many people say, "Oh, cancer is about not loving yourself. Like it's the body attacking the body." And I kept going like, "But I love myself, and I love
Mhm.
people so much that like it's ridiculous, Like if you can be loved as much as you can love others, like I am very loved and I love
Yeah.
myself, but um but I've I saw how you actually can only be loved as much as you love yourself. And
Mm.
then I saw how there are ways that I don't love myself. And I've got to like dig there and really kind of explore that, where I wouldn't have had that invitation otherwise, and I wouldn't
Sure.
really have seen these blind spots of, oh, I don't eat, drink, and sleep well. Like that's not very self-loving, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. It's true.
Like it's really easy to feed everyone else and make sure my kids are in bed on time and do all
Uh-huh.
that other stuff, but it's hard to do it for myself. It's just
Yeah.
really always been a struggle for me. I mean, I was talking to my friend who's known me since I was 6 months old, or she was 6 months old. I was, um, and she was saying, I remember going down to your room and you'd have goals all over your door. And it was always like, drink more water. I was like, crap, I've been trying to do that goal since I was like 14. I better start, like, maybe with this invitation, I'll start drinking more, So I have my big tea of licorice tea right here.
I'm proud of you. It's interesting though, right? Because you're such a love, you're such a giver. And I think that's part of why our hearts connected. But
Yeah.
it's like you pour into everyone else and then it can be like, ooh, who's pouring into me? Like that's why I love working with leaders, because I recognize I'm like, I want to pour into you, because then I realize like you're helping all these other people. And I've had to find my people too, where I'm like, who's pouring into me? Like I recognize that space. I need that for me, So I'm
Yeah.
proud of you for, I guess I would say, accepting the invitation then of like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because that is a big challenge, but you're being very active with it. And I love that you're sharing your story. And anything I can do to help you. Like I said, that's why I reached out. I'm like, I want to have you on here to help people know about you and more positivity and love and light for Paige.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
there's a lot of love and light coming my way, that's for sure. But there's also this learning how to receive,
Yes.
There's been a huge, one of my favorite questions is, what can I, like, what's the gift? What's the invitation?
Mhm.
And I've been practicing this for years. And, this has been a real invitation of, can I practice what I preach, and
Mhm.
but one of those things has been in receiving, and the left side of the body is all about receiving and the feminine and everything, and all of it's all in my left side, which is really interesting. And so it's been like, oh, and then one of my friends set up a GoFundMe for me, and
Mhm.
I freaked. I was like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, I cannot do this. Like, it's embarrassing. I can figure it out myself. I was just sharing how much I needed to raise because I was thinking I'll put on a retreat or I'll figure it out. Like,
yeah.
and he just set it up. And I was all of a sudden just in this space of having to receive in a really big way that was really uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And there's been so many things like that where it's just like, okay, take the deep breath and allow people to give to you. And even sharing my story, it's been like, as soon as I found out, I'm like, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to figure
Mhm.
this out. I'm going to do it. And then I was talking to someone who had gone through it and said, you have to share, you have to allow people to give to you. And it's been like, my friends have been like, thank you for telling, like, they want so much to give to me and to support me and to love me. And even if it's just a prayer, let alone all the other things that people have done for me. Like, people got me to Joe Dispenza for a week.
I
And I
saw
mean, there's like
that.
amazing miracles that have happened since, and just because I was able to open up and receive. So it's been a
Gives me
lesson.
goosebumps. It's
Yeah.
so true. It's so true. And it's not cancer, but like when Wyatt was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 4, it was it rocked our world. We had that huge photography studio, and suddenly it was like up every 2 hours all night, every day, night for 8 years. And it was like we had so many people rally with us who were like, we're going to help you. We want to help you with this, and we want to help send you to studies. We want to help with medical. And it was like, but we're used to being the ones helping everyone else. But it was like, because we shared our story, they connected with us and our hearts. And then it was like, we had even more friends, and you get this big tribe that loves you and looks out for you, and you're not alone in that. So it is an interesting gift, right? Through those
Yeah.
challenges. Yeah.
People want to give, you're such an inspiration to me of, like, first of all, just taking something and running with it and like facing it head on and finding the resources and doing the research and like writing a book, but taking like a mess into your message, or taking your, like, the mess into it becoming such a blessing, like the way that that your family has taken it, and even just seeing your kids thrive because of the trial of it has been really inspiring, it's
Thank
really
you,
cool.
Paige. That's
Yeah.
it is interesting because why I don't know if you know, he'll be 18 in May.
Yeah,
And
and he's such a magnificent human being, like
yeah,
the
he's
things he's
getting ready.
doing.
Yeah, he loves speaking on stages and we
Yeah.
just finished yesterday. He's gonna have a workshop. It's gonna be a 4-week seminar. He's gonna do live all for type 1 diabetics or people who love them to teach people
Oh,
how to understand and care for them, or if you have a friend or you're going through it yourself. So it's pretty cool. And that's just he's watched and he's like, I want to do this. I want to help people. This is my challenge and I can lead it. So it's pretty
at
cool.
18 for him to
Yeah.
be able to have the leadership skills and
Mhm.
the information to be able to teach that, like he's so empowered by it, which
Yeah.
is just, for anyone to be that empowered around their illness is such a gift and inspiration, like
Yeah.
it's so easy to go into victimhood around illness. Physical
Sure.
illness is just like you can make up every reason and everyone will give into the reasons for why you're not doing something because you're sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Not you. You're a superstar. When I saw you down in Mexico, I'm like, of course Paige did that. Like you're rallying. And because of you, literally, I went and got a mammogram. I was like, I need to go. It's been 2 years. And so you're helping people. You're probably saving lives. You don't even know just by getting out there and sharing. So thank you, Paige, for sharing your journey.
amazing. Thank you.
All right, let's see. There's another fun one I'm going to ask you. You're really good at this. What would you say was your key to expanding your reach and connecting with influential leaders?
Retreats.
Retreats.
I mean, like, I'm kind of like a little biased here, but the in-person retreats,
Yeah,
it's so, there's intimacy, there's this connection, you're sitting down at meals together, you're getting to know each other. And like the retreat I was just down in Mexico, it was so beautiful. For the first full day, we didn't even talk about, I didn't even know what anyone did for work. It was purely just like, who are you? What are you passionate about? What's your passion project? What are you here on the planet to do? That kind of thing. And then their businesses came out by the next day or the next, and we collaborated and mastermind and everything else. And it was a powerful business opportunity. But it was really just like, what we want is to connect spirit to spirit and then
yeah,
figure out if we want to do business together.
that's right.
Like that's what, when we first met, I remember we did meet in person. That was the first one in California at
Oh
the,
yeah.
at that, at that
Oh,
beautiful home.
that's right. That party. We were like at
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. So, but it's, you like feel someone's heart and you go, oh, like that's someone that I want to get to know more, and then you can start riffing off of each other of like, oh, that's what I do. And I wonder what that looks like. And so anyway, I just find that everyone I work with, and so many of my referrals even just come from the retreat space, but most importantly, like deep friends,
Yeah,
people that I stay in touch with and that I love, and that we keep supporting each other in whatever way we can.
that's
So
right. Yeah, because it's so true because it was years. Like it's been years now since we got to see each other. That's why I was like,
yeah,
I
I know. It feels like
but you're
we've
right.
connected so many times really deeply other
Yeah,
times,
that's
but it
right.
does make a difference if we met in person.
You're right. And so everyone, yeah, go to retreats. Like talk to Paige if you want to throw a retreat, like you
Yeah.
want to go to him. You're right. It's just such a great intimate space to make quality friendships and relationships. And I think people are so hungry for that. Like it's one thing, you meet people online and virtual, and there's so many cool things we're doing with that now. But I never wanted to be chained to a desk, or a computer. That's not my like vision for my life. And retreats, you get to be out and play and fun and create and see new places and experience new things. And like you said, I love how you bring in the food component because it's literally inside out health, you know and it
Yeah.
is when you can bring in the senses, you connect on every level. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and like just to touch on, I also do yoga and meditation and like all these other things that kind of like bring people into their
Yeah,
boxes, because
yeah,
we can easily go to an event and just stay in our heads and
that's
just
right.
like talk on this level. But what really makes a difference, another thing that like really makes a difference of connecting with people, is like coming down into our hearts, you know,
Mhm.
and really getting out of all the business stuff and getting into
Right.
like, this is who I am and this is my essence. So yeah, there's um, definitely a lot of connection that's possible there. And I think as we grow as entrepreneurs, it becomes a little more and more lonely, because
Mhm.
there's less people that do exactly what we do, or
Yeah.
have reached the different levels of success that we have. And so finding retreats where you can find like soul sisters or soul brothers,
Mhm.
or people that are in the same industry or have reached, like I went to a one an event where I actually supported an event that was for women who make over 150,000.
Mhm.
So like that is, it's not like millions, but it's
Yeah.
also this place where it's like really nice to be around other women who are really successful financially.
Yeah.
First of all, the resource level is different than the scrappy entrepreneur who's like getting their first few clients.
Yeah.
It's just a different conversation, but it's also like massive support and collaboration that happened there. It was one of the best events I've seen, as far as people like literally doing business together immediately
Yeah.
after.
It's so different, right? And I've noticed that too, because that level, when you're working with people like that, there's a synergy because you don't need anything for each other. So
Yeah,
you get to just help one another and bless each other. And it's like this abundance spiral,
totally.
you know?
Yeah. And you can
Super
see the
cool.
abundance in those women. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot different, and some
Yeah.
of them are making 500,000 and some are making, you
Sure.
know, they're 150 or whatever. But there's definitely a different mindset that you get to
Yeah.
be around, and we're the average of the people we spend the most time with. So if in
That's
a
true.
weekend you spend all that time with that, your vibration goes up. And
That's right.
that's what I see every time at these events. Like you just literally recalibrate your vibration to a higher frequency.
That's so true. That's so true. Well, and that brings me to my next question for you is what message are you wanting to share through your work?
Mm. Oh, the immediate thought is like that that, oh, let me think through this. There's so many different things. Um, you know, I'm a hypnotherapist, so I focus so much on the subconscious, but
Yeah.
it's the mind. Like,
Mm.
if we can just recognize the power of our minds and the power of like our thoughts, as we master our minds, we master our lives. And as
Mhm.
we master our lives, we bless the planet. Like, I work with people hitting the next level of success. And I don't necessarily work with a lot of people in trauma or in victimhood. I work with people that are wanting to take that step into the next level. And it's all about mindset, and it's all about accessing the 90% of what we do, say, think, believe, which is the subconscious, and then
Mhm.
reprogramming so that we can just more easily access that. So that's like my message as far as the work I do. As far as the retreats, it's about connection and
Mm.
about helping people love each other, you know,
Yeah.
and love is the master healer. And so I guess my answer would be that love is the master healer, and that as we come to love each other, we can create a better world. And the way that the only thing that stops us from loving is our own minds,
Mhm.
the illusions within our mind. So that's a longer, yeah, it took me a
That's
little bit
beautiful.
to bring that. I should probably figure out a more concise way of, that's a really good question, but yeah,
Beautiful though. Well, and thank you for allowing me like just that space together where you could look at that because I think it's really important. And I hear that in your messaging, like I love coaching with you too, but just to pull that out of you, because I think that inside out love message, because I know you help people spiraling up that next level of success. It really is about calling out what is that internal dialogue and flipping it to, hey, I get to do this, right? I can see how this is working for me. And you do that so beautifully. So thank you for taking the time to just think about that because it is a gift. And when you can clearly communicate that, then people can access that with you even more, which is what I want to do is help people know about my amazing friend Paige so that, they just get to tap into that abundance in their health, in their clarity, in their life and leveling up. So you do it beautifully.
Well, and Trina, you are like, that's your superpower, is drawing that out of people, helping people to really get clarity on what their message is and what is it that I really do. And when I first started working with you, it was just like, I just love people. I don't know. What do I do, Trina? And she's like, okay, Paige, here's you're a retreat specialist. You help people with this. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally am. But you've helped me so much with just clarifying my message, so.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Because I see you light up when you talk about retreats. That's why I'm like, it's all the things you do in it. But when they see, oh, it's connection, why do I go to retreats and why would I come to yours? Like, you really, I think that's a gift and part of what you're going through. It is. I talk about, and I do many programs on Inside Out Health, but you do that with nurturing people with the healthy food and then the mindset around it and finding peace. And especially entrepreneurs who are leading others need that time to just regroup themselves and recharge their spirit, because they're always giving to others, right? So you are love embodied for sure.
Well, I was talking to someone at the Mexico retreat that I was at a week ago, and he's this Emmy Award winner, just beautiful soul from New Zealand, and he was saying that I am like a culture specialist. And I was like, oh, okay, what's that? But it was interesting to think of, like, really, I think my superpower is just bringing love into a space. Right. And if I could monetize that, help me do that, Trina.
Yeah, sure.
But
we can work on that for your high ticket offer, because I think there is some to that.
Such a need, but when I come into a space, there is a sense of bringing people together in love, in food, in retreat space, and connection, and just the seeing how in the space you can create more of that. So that was an interest. It's always interesting to speak with brilliant people and see what they see in you, and experience that. But that was a neat kind of idea of how I can show up in even more of a corporate space, right?
Well, when you bring love into the space, the whole vibration goes up. Like, I have a multi-million-dollar coach I used to do sales for, and he would have me come into the events and the parties and dinners, because he's like, you lift the whole room. Like, sales go up when you're here, just because it's such a bright energy, and we can even radiate that virtually, so there's definitely a space for that, and for you, because you can see it, you can feel it. Like, you and I, the whole room gets warmer around it. Yeah. That's cool. Your halo's like, right. Yeah. Well, so I know, right? The hair is like, what? What's another? Oh, so what can people expect when they work with you, for those who don't know you yet?
To feel happier, to spiral up into a life that they love. That's
awesome.
My website's The Life That You Love, but it's all about spiraling up, and a lot of times we spiral down, and I've been there, and I see how it's so easy. And so what tools do we create and learn to change the momentum? Because that's the hardest place, is when you're spiraling in the wrong direction. To change that momentum is like,
yeah.
And so you need the most powerful tools, and I'm all about, like, the fastest, easiest way, and let's move it, and let's recreate, and then start spiraling, and just really spiral up.
I love it. I love that so much.
Oh yeah. Answer that one.
And you're so good at finding people to meet and connect with. And a lot of people, maybe they have a retreat, maybe they're doing some kind of coaching, but they wonder, like, how do you get your favorite jobs or interviews that you've been able to connect with?
Again, events and retreats.
Yeah, no, this is great. They need to hear it at least 3 times.
I think people, it's just connections. It's all word of mouth for me. I'm not, I've found, maybe from sharing things vulnerably on social media or something, I've gotten a few clients, but it's word of mouth, and it's collaboration, and it's also just figuring out how I can give to people. And I'm always just if it's way easier for me to do it than for you to do it, I'm happy to do it, and I'll do it all day long. And so I'm just constantly kind of doing things that are easy for me and harder for other people. And then they are like, they experience what I do, and then they get excited, and we collaborate, or we start working together, or they hire me, or I hire them. It's just kind of like a fun game to play.
Love that. Yes, it is a fun game to play. And so I tell people, I'm like, if you're missing the fun in your business, then there's something's got to give. Something has to change because you're not living your purpose. You're not doing the thing that lights you up. And that's the thing. It almost feels effortless, right? Because you are connecting, you're meeting with people, and you're doing what you love and taking something off their plate that they don't like. It's hard for them. That was really good.
Yeah. And if we all play in our zone of genius, then the
Yeah.
world's a better place. It's
Right.
just so much better. It's super easy for me to put on an event, and
Yeah.
it's really overwhelming for most people, I've
Yeah.
learned. Like,
Yeah.
just the entire idea of it, or maybe parts of it, are just like, so let's all just play in our zone of genius, and we'll just create a better world.
Okay, I love it. I love it. That's the thing. It's abundance for all, and everybody has a game to play. Everybody's needed in a different way. And that's why I love like this, just helping spread the word so people get
Yeah.
to know you.
Yeah, I want to share this because like I'm doing this teen course with,
Yeah.
I just saw this need, and I was just like, I'll just get a bunch of people together, and it's all the stuff that we wish we learned. Like, I've been in this personal development world for about 7 years, but read Tony Robbins, like been reading personal development since I was probably 15. So I'm like, but I often think to myself, like, I have this aha moment. I'm like, why didn't I learn this earlier? Like,
Right?
why didn't they teach me this when I was 15? Like, why didn't I know what real love was versus imitation love when I was dating? Like, so all these things, I'm just like, oh my gosh. So we put this course together with these 5 other coaches that are just phenomenal, like best, wonderful human beings. And I knew I was totally unqualified. Like, this is not my zone of genius to teach teenagers. But I got this guy who's just unbelievable. He's starting a university for teens, and he came on, JJ Villar. He's incredible. And then I had this guy who's made millions in the real estate and investment industry. So he came in and taught all about wealth. And I had this other coach in emotional resilience and works with troubled teens. So I brought all these amazing people together, and we'll come on, and they've been so fun to work with. And they're all totally different personalities. So there's a few of us who are enthusiasts that are just like, yes, anything that happens is just like a big, huge yes.
Yeah.
For other people, it's like, a couple of them are kind of like, what? I don't feel good about that. Like, no, and it's kind of like, oh, are they being negative? But I'm like, no, I love the dynamics. I love that they're pulling back as we're rushing forward like a steam train. Like, we need every part of the dynamics. And even if one of them comes on and it's kind of in a bad mood, like half the time, and I love it. I love that they're in a bad mood. It's just like, okay, great. Like, I'm glad that you're bringing that, because sometimes teens get on and they're in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to think that this is all stupid. So what do we do about that?
Yeah.
And so, like, take all of it and just be like, everyone show up totally authentically, 100% you. And like, that's making the world's tapestry so much better than us trying to, oh, I should be happy here because, everyone else is happy. It's like, no, be who you are, and the world's going to be way better than you faking it,
Yeah. That's really interesting you said that, because I saw you were doing that and I was like, debated reaching out to you, because it's like, I mean, the different work we do, but with John and Wyatt specifically, because John has a whole like coaching program. He loves mentoring young men. Like, he gets referred a lot of young men a lot to mentor. And then Wyatt created this whole program where it's like helping young men value who they are, so they're not just throwing themselves at anyone, and having self-respect, and really teaching like kind of old-fashioned gentleman values. And he's 17. It's just amazing. Like, yeah, I know. And he got invited. I don't know if you knew this, but 2 years ago, he got invited to be the speaker at the high school. He did this as part of his Eagle Scout project, where he taught all the freshman health classes about type 1 diabetes for Diabetes Awareness Month. And
I
when he
saw
wanted to
that.
do this for his project, I was like, most, I think at the time he was a sophomore, I'm like, most kids would be terrified to get in front of an entire class, do their own presentation, let alone lead 6 classes. And he was just like, what, Mom, people need to know this stuff. And he made all
Oh,
friends, and he just is like, Mom, I need to help. This is how we'll come up with a cure. It makes me cry because he's just so passionate to help people. And he understands like when people struggle with depression and helping them find the gift. And, he's pulled a lot of his friends out of that. Like they kind of rally, they've been kind of meeting. So I'm gonna have to connect you guys just because you never know
yes.
what'll come of it.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. You know, what's so beautiful about him is he's so outward focused. Like, it's not about what do I look like if I'm standing in front of the class or
Yeah.
what my peers think of me. It was just like, no, they need to know, like, this is, and just
Yeah.
such a giving heart. And
Yeah.
that's the secret to public speaking, is just like, just get over yourself,
That's
don't
right.
let yourself, and just think of what they, that
Yeah.
they need it. Or that's the secret to entrepreneurialism too, right? Like, we get
That's
in our
right.
own way if we get thinking about ourselves too much. But
Yes.
what a beautiful thing. He's such a powerhouse. I would love, love, love to connect about it, because I want to just give every resource to these teens
Oh
possible.
yeah. Yeah, he has his little free downloadable, like he's got his program. It's just amazing.
Like, you two are incredible, like, support too. What a team to be on, so
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's pretty cool because we don't force it. We're just like, hey, these are resources and this is here. And I
Yeah.
listen to the way they communicate and I'm like, I can't imagine having that confidence at 18. Like my whole world would have been different. It took me a while to kind of, right? We're like, yeah.
Insane.
Totally. So that'll be fun. Oh my gosh. It's always, I could talk to you all day. I feel like
I know.
we need to have our own retreat just to play together.
Totally. Absolutely.
Oh, I want to like have a few last things I want to make sure people know. So, okay, if someone wanted to do what you do, what skills or training would they need? I don't even know if that's possible, but
Anyone that has events-based experience, I think it's the big vision. So that's a hard one, because I've learned through making every mistake possible.
yeah,
Right? And so
yes,
and unfortunately that's my learning method in a lot of ways, is like, I have to make the mistake and then I learn it, but then I learn it, and
yeah,
I know not to do it again. But uh the if you have a really good sense of timing and seeing the end from the beginning,
hmm,
and structures, systems, um, if you love to have parties or gather people together, then that's a big one. I mean, there's education around event planning and spaces. It depends on what kind of, this is kind of a niche, because I typically help, like, um, people put on events with maybe 10 to 30 people. So
hmm,
it's kind of a smaller niche, but some people, you could, if you wanted to do, there's event space planning for 150. You can go to college for that. In fact, BYU started a program a few years ago, and I was like, I totally would have done that education of event planning if it had been there. I did a finance degree, and it was not as applicable as I was as I was
right,
to what I do. So anyway, there's schooling, but there's just I think having a passion for it and being able to play in chaos.
sure,
Like, there's so many moving parts,
yeah,
and being okay with things not being perfect.
hmm,
It's a huge, huge thing for women.
yeah,
It's huge for party planning. It's huge. Like, if
mhm,
you even just have a dinner party and think, like, notice what comes up. And
yeah,
what usually, when I talk to people about it, they're like, oh, but I need the table settings to be perfect. And I'd have to, and they make it too complicated, and they make
yeah,
it too, like, that it has to be perfect. And if it wasn't, then they'd be beating themselves up. And it's like, no, there's such a method to this. In fact,
yeah,
my sisters and I have a podcast, And on it, we did a whole thing on party planning. So if you want to
Yeah.
look at it, it's Mulberry Sister, the Mulberry
Okay.
Sisters, and it's on every podcast platform. But look up the party planning one, because we go into every detail of exactly the timing of it and how to do it, and you can apply it to a huge group or just a dinner party. But it's a really, really fun one.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna have a tornado warning right now. Can you hear that?
Yes, that's crazy.
Wow, is
Seriously?
this real? We'll
Is
see
there
if
really
it's a
going to be a
testing
tornado?
day or if it's an actual tornado warning. You
You
get to hear
seem
it. This is
very
real life.
calm.
This is real life. I think it's a test.
Okay,
It's real life, right?
that's awesome.
That
There's
is
tornadoes.
perfect. It showed up when you said chaos and unexpected.
It's true, huh? Like, how do you play in the chaos? That's exactly what I said, is you have to be able to play in the chaos.
Well, that's
So
hilarious. Like, I'm just like, all right. So if you ever have a tornado at an event,
what would you do?
what would you do? You would make sure you get to a lower level of the building, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, at events, it's really great to create scenarios where you put people outside of their comfort zones, and there's hiking, there's arrow breaks on the neck that I've done, there's board breaks, but there's all sorts of things that you can do, from just having people stare each other in the eyes for a minute straight. Like,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of things that at events you can do to get people out of their comfort zones, but that would be a good one. Like, oh, there's a tornado. What are we going to do?
It's so true. I mean, it made me think of that because our event here was in the spring and it was tornadoes, and we had to talk about, like, there was a lower level, but you're right. Unexpected things will come up just like that. I'm like, thanks for the plant, God. That was hilarious.
It's perfect.
Where you
Yeah.
didn't plan. I mean, I had a friend, she just had a retreat, and at her retreat, they had a crazy snowstorm. And so the food could not get delivered. Three of her people couldn't even make it to the event. So they ended up being like snowed in, had to eat canned stuff. It wasn't what she wanted at all, but they made it work. And she just had to roll with it because she didn't plan. Like, I brought all the food, I cooked for mine. So I was good. Like, she was having it catered. And so they weren't able to get there, and it was like, so what are they doing? Like having crackers and, whatever snacks in their bag. And it was just such a different Snickers for the high-end retreat instead of, but you have to roll with it. And I love what you said about it doesn't have to be perfect to be great. I'm always on the spot. My mind just processes that way and I can create, but I want to just bless you with like a high ticket offer. If you decide you want to go this route for retreats, you could literally offer a retreat planning certification, or you could do like a retreat. Yeah, like a retreat. You are a retreat specialist, but you could offer a retreat planning certification where you could create your own like 6-week, once a week program and teach all of your the organization you do, the structure, include your recipes. So these people coming out would be your, specific name, Paige's secret, special certification. And then when they come out, like, you could refer them, because you might get so many retreats you can't, but you could send one of your certified, special people, and you could only have who you want on your team. And anyway, instead of paying 100,000 for them to go to college and get that event planning degree, they could go through your program for like 5K or 10K and start having retreats next month. So
right. Yeah, I love that. You got such good ideas. That's a great idea, though. Especially as more and more people are starting to do live events again.
Yes.
Yeah. And I
Awesome.
agree, like, people are craving it, and
They are.
it makes such a huge difference to your business if you put on a retreat, but if you go to a retreat as well, it makes all the difference in how you go forward over the next 6 to 12 months.
That's right. Yeah, you're amazing at that. So if people want to work with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Probably reach out on Facebook. Facebook's just Paige Harris Clark, or my website is thelifethatyouLove.com. So either one of those, I can, in the links below, I'll send, there's schedulewithpaige.com is how you just schedule a time. If you want to do a consultation or something with me, then just go to schedulewithpaige.com and it'll take you to my Calendly link. But anytime
Awesome.
anyone wants to just set up a time to talk, anyone listening, I would love to talk to you and just hear what you're up to and play in your realm for a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. So everybody listening to this podcast episode, all of Paige, like her bio links, a way to get a hold of her, schedule an appointment, are all going to be included there to make it super easy for you to access her. Of course, you can always reach out to me and I'll even put you in a three-way message with Paige, if that helps as well. And I'm so happy to be able to spread the word about you, Paige, because I feel like the more amazing people like you can help, we're just lifting humanity and being those bright lights everywhere. There's enough work in the world for everybody to be able to serve at their highest purpose. And it's just my blessing and honor to be able to have you on the podcast today as a guest. There's a really fun thing. I'm trying to include everybody who I have on the podcast someday. I'm going to finish this book and it's hashtag to my younger self. So
Yes.
I'm still working on. So I'd love to include every guest. If you were going to have a hashtag to your younger self, what would it be? And I'll literally write it down so I have it from you to include you when that comes out.
Hashtag to my younger self. Hashtag be still.
Ooh, oh my gosh, that's so perfect for everything that embodies what you do.
And something that I've never been able to do until, life started to work for me rather than constant invitations.
Oh my gosh, I love
So
that.
it made a huge difference. Yeah, I think if I had actually known how to be still a little bit earlier, it would have made a big difference.
That's beautiful. That we teach a whole thing about sitting for great ideas. And it's true. Like in those quiet moments. Yeah, I can connect you with John. That's something that it is, we get so busy. And I think especially as moms, because we're always like, what are we doing for dinner? Laundry, kids, husband needs something. We're thinking, right? We're having thoughts while everybody is asking us questions, but just that peaceful time to just be, and listen to the Holy Spirit and have your own thoughts, like really be centered and get to know who you are so you can continue to help and serve others at the highest level. That's awesome.
I come from like a do family and culture
Yeah.
in general. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it's so much of like, okay, so if I want to be that, what do I want to do? And it's like, oh, be, and all the wisdom, all I need is within myself. Like I've come to learn that. And if I could have just been still earlier, I could have had much more direction and clarity. So, oh, Trina, thank you
Love
so
that.
much for having me on here. It's
You're
been so much
welcome.
fun. I just love talking to you anytime I get to. So
It was. Thank you, Paige, for being my guest. You are officially in the Legacy and Legends podcast. You go down in history and Women's History Month. You made the cut, and I'm so proud of you. I look forward to seeing you again, and I hope you have an amazing day. I know you will, because you create that every day.
yes, I do. Okay, much love. See ya.
Okay. Bye, Paige.
Bye.